Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and this is the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. All right, welcome once again to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Today's episode is we're mostly going to be talking about situations in Uganda, and I'm so proud to bring one of my OBs, one of my best friends. We went to school together, and I can't be more proud to hear that he's now a council. So I want to introduce to you, Council Asuma Gilbert. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. I'm glad to be here. My name is Gilbert Asimwe, but I'm mostly known as Gilbert Sparks because most of my friends, that's the name I go with from way back.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer, a human rights lawyer, and I'm an advocate in Uganda. And basically, I look into a whole lot of stuff, but the most important bit is the whole human right aspect of it.
That's the whole reason why I wanted to have you on this show today, because there's a lot of things going on in Uganda right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to be mixing Luganda and English a little bit so that some of my people in Uganda can get a better understanding of it. But also, not forget other people who are in Uganda that actually don't speak Luganda, So,
yeah. Yeah, sure. Let's try to not leave anyone behind.
yeah, I'm sure everybody, what's going on everybody's minds right now is the voting that's coming up on the 14th of January.
Yes.
What has been the situation in Uganda? What have you seen going on there?
Bonnie, frankly, the situation in Uganda is a little rough. We like to think this is a kind of election period that we have never had before. It is actually unprecedented simply because it came under the surge of the pandemic of COVID-19. It took us by surprise the whole of last year. But fortunately or unfortunately, it was right around the time we were supposed to organize general election, particularly the presidential elections that are supposed to take place in the country. So what makes them a little bit significant is that after the whole corona managing lockdown and everything, it was actually left with this very, very small period, okay, for campaigning prior to the elections, which I think it was a period of a month or two that has been gazetted for campaigning, has been pretty intense because you have a whole lot of candidates that are running for the presidential race. This time we have a whole lot of candidates that have been all over the country, but they have been trying to campaign vis-a-vis the corona SOPs in place that our government has put in place. So it has been pretty intense with the police trying to manage and everything.
But you're talking about the police trying to maintain, but I'm not in Uganda right now, and I've been watching the news, and it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair that a group of presidential candidates is treated differently than the other group of, and for that reason, there's a lot of lives that have been lost in the country. Like abantu bafude, babakuba masasi, abamu baba treating amongeri yenjawulo. So how is that?
Well, frankly, like I mentioned earlier, the situation in Uganda has been crazy. And that is particularly because, well, if you to look at it in a logical perspective and in a legal perspective, you realize that there has been a lot of a violation of human rights, both enshrined within our Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and other governing laws that are binding on Uganda as a country, particularly like the UN laws and everything. But the most worrying bit is that state-operated organs or security agencies that are particularly supposed to observe law and order, this time around have taken a twist for the worst, and they've actually been involved in the violation of human rights. We have seen a lot of shootings around. This campaign trail has been tainted with a lot of bloodshed. It has been tainted with a lot of death counts and everything, simply because like I mentioned before, it is unprecedented. We're looking at a generation, a younger generation, a generation of the youth that occupied about 85% of the population. Yeah, and
Yeah.
these are youth that are brought together, or that share common challenges in the country, vis-a-vis when you look at the political scene, the economic climate in Uganda. It is not faring that well. Resources are being misappropriated, and then there have been pleas trying to appeal to the government to see if they can actually bring out a few changes and remedy some of these challenges that the youth or the majority of the populace are facing. But most of these pleas have been in vain, simply because I don't like to. Maybe the best way to put it is the regime has had a different agenda, different from what
Yeah.
exactly they promised before. You see, when the government was coming into power, well, actually their liberation front was founded on principles of democracy. It was founded on principles of respect of human rights, enrichment of natural resources. It came with a whole lot of things, yeah. But by then it was actually appealing, because these are the things that were actually affecting the country. These are the things that the country needed at the moment to stabilize and see to it that we achieve economic development, we develop a whole lot of sectors, and also foster creation of jobs for the nationals. Yeah.
Yeah.
By then it was ideal, simply because those are the challenges that were for the country. But over time, you realize that at the time that the regime has spent in power, they sort of derailed from their original agenda. They derailed, and they got personal agendas which move along the lines of enrichment, tribalism, and nepotism, trying to bring a particular group of people that believe or have the same kind of thinking along the lines of what exactly they hope to achieve. Yeah. And we're talking in terms of enrichment. That's why you see this current government, over the 35 years it has been in rule, it has been tainted with a lot of corruption, a lot of abuse of human rights. It has stamped on the very principles that they came to power with, the principles of democracy.
Yeah, talking about I actually remember sometime, I don't know what year it was, when they removed the age limit of a presidential candidate. Like, how
Yeah.
is that possible? Like,
Yes, that is the thing. The way the system works down here, yeah, is that you have a government, you have a president, but that president leads a party. It's the same way you have Republicans and Democrats back there, yeah. But
yeah,
numbers play the role in Parliament. So if you have an agenda, you need to push through the Parliament and make it official in a legal sense, yeah. The thing is, you have to vote. Once it is tabled in Parliament, you have to vote on it. And this is precisely what was done back then. And I remember it was right around the time when Honorable Kyagulanyi, Robert, who is currently actually challenging the president, was an MP. Was an MP by then. So this is something that we are trying to oppose, simply because it is something that was, for lack of a better word, ridiculous. Yeah. Like I mentioned
yeah,
before, it is against the very principles that brought the NRM, which happens to be the ruling party, in power. Now, this NRM has actually been in power for over 35 years. Now, over the 35 years, that gap right there covers for the 85% of the population who are actually the youth. Okay? Museveni has outlived a whole age gap of 35 years and has practically detached from the reality of what is affecting his citizens. And we're talking things of economic, jobs, social factors and everything. We're talking about hospitals, medication, We're talking about infrastructure, roads. You're looking at scenarios where we recently, surprisingly, case in fact, we just recently acquired an Airbus. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and that was last year. But the funny thing is, it is just one. And before the government came in power, there were actually quite more. You get the idea? So
Yeah.
we kind of took a step. For every step we took forward in the guise of achieving democracy, we sort of took five steps back. And
Yeah.
that situation alone over the period of 35 years has been escalating. Now the challenge is, before, people would kind of look away, they were kind of turning a blind eye simply because they were managing. But last year, situation took a plot for the worse simply because I think it also is the corona that made things a little worse for people.
I know, and people are fed up about what is going on right now.
Mm.
And most of the youth, like even me, myself, I was talking about in the earlier episode
Yeah.
that I wanted to do aviation when I was in Uganda. But
Yeah.
because of the lack of the education system in Uganda, I found myself wanting to leave the country to go find a better education system. Like that's why I moved to the United States.
Okay.
And like things like this, with the government being in power for so long, that they are failing to manage the government. And I look at it like Honorable Kyagulanyi coming out, he has opened a lot of other youth to these things that they didn't know that was going on. And that's what is going on right now. And that's what our current president doesn't like. Like he wants to keep his people under his like power or something, like not nga tewali muntu ababuusa kwegamba nga abakuumira awo nga tomanyi na ki kyeweetaaga mu bulamu bwo. But like when you get somebody who opens up your mind, and that's where all that is coming from. Would you say that's what is going on?
Yeah, maybe that is exactly what is going on. But maybe to put it into context, yeah, Kyagulanyi has been a necessary factor into what exactly is taking place right now. And I think I would call it his mistake to the regime, has been to give the whole country a rude awakening of what exactly is happening in the country. And all he's doing is he's saying, look here, do you know you deserve better? You deserve more. And you can actually get more. Why? Because the resources are actually there. The only difference is they're being misappropriated, they're being misused, but the resources are actually there. You understand?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, what this has done, it has sort of awakened the spirit in the country of the majority of the citizens who have been sitting on this plight for quite a long time, but without an avenue to release it or to see how they can get it over with or get a remedy to it.
Right.
And here comes someone who is actually determined and can actually relate to the plight of most people of the country. He can relate because he is out there preaching, trying to relate to the people in exactly what affects them, in the challenges that they're facing in the country, the medication in the hospitals, accessibility to those hospitals, the infrastructure, equal distribution of resources. You find one area or region of the country is more developed than the other. Then you have issues of corruption, which has become a trend now all over government and government officials. So these things have kind of agitated the people over time, but they didn't exactly have something to do. Now, Bobby Wine, over the period that he has come, Bobby Wine is Kyagulanyi. Bobby Wine, over the period that he came, yeah? What he basically was doing was trying to show the people that, you know what? It is about time that you woke up and you took matters into your own hands, yeah, and try to see how exactly you can personally remedy the things that affect you. The only reason why I'm doing this is simply because that are tasked, or the people that are supposed to be taking care of us, who we entrust with our vote, who we entrust with their leadership to drive us to the right direction, seem to have a different agenda. They seem to be selfish, they seem to care about themselves, and they seem to push for whatever best interests them. So what we best do is we better take matters into our own hands and try to look for an avenue in a legal way to go about everything. First rose for Chadondo East as a member of parliament. He came into parliament. He was being very, very vocal against some of these things that have been actually considered injustice, or things that have been considered unlawful, that the regime has practically imparted on Ugandans without their will or against their will. And this is simply because they have the numbers in parliament. So when something is tabled, which is ordinarily done by still their MPs, they have the numbers to back it up and eventually pass it into law. You understand? So then he was in parliament, but he took a better twist because the challenges that he was advocating for in Chadondo were not just in Chadondo. These are things that were happening all over the country, in the north, in the east, in the west. People were facing the same things, were complaining about the same things. They don't have the jobs. It is a particular region that is more better placed to get the jobs in government. Then others benefit simply because maybe that region has something to offer. For example, the Bunyoro region has been blessed with oil over the years, and government has been pushing up a little bit of development back there, not particularly because it is an agenda of the government, but simply because there is something to benefit from back there. Essentially, Kyagulanyi or Bobby Wine looked at all these, and he came through with an agenda, or he came through with a motive of awakening a spirit in the majority of Ugandans who he can relate to, being the youth. Okay? The youth are the majority. We form up, like I mentioned earlier, they form up 85% of the population. Now, he came up with the motive of sensitizing the youth about their constitution-given rights. And over time, he has been enlightening the youth about what exactly they need, how they are supposed to be treated by the police, what they are entitled to. They are not allowed to bribe police officers because they are officers of the law serving the country. When you go to public hospitals, you are supposed to get medication because these are things that you actually pay for with your taxes. Okay? But over time, his efforts have been in vain. The only good thing I could mention, with all truth and honesty, is maybe he is a resilient young man, or a gentleman. He's a youth. He's just 38. He's a resilient young man who keeps pushing and pushing through. Okay? So every single time he tries something that doesn't work out, or that is in vain, he tries something different. You see, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different what? Result. Now, there are a factor of things that have actually agitated him or pushed him towards that direction. All the way from 2018, when he was in Arua, he lost a driver. I think the whole world actually even found out there was an assassination attempt, which the public official statement actually said was a stray bullet. I don't know how lucky a stray bullet can be to the head, but again, down here, the possibilities are endless.
Now, I want to switch to the voting part of it. So I know the voting is 14th January 2021. And I read the Electoral Commission came out and said they're not allowing anybody to record anything at the polling stations or the results of the election. How is that legal that they're not letting anybody? If it's a free and fair election, how can the Electoral Commission come out and say nobody's allowed to record these?
Frankly, there is nothing legal about that. If anything, who are waiting on a legal basis or the backing for the reason behind that whole agenda. But if you actually look at it in a logical perspective, you realize that it has a political motive behind it. Okay, because it's not just about individuals. It even goes as far as journalists. Journalists are not allowed to bring cameras into the polling stations simply because the Electoral Commission came out and issued such orders for some obscure reason. You understand? And the same goes for individuals who are hoping to carry phones into the polling stations, or even waiting for the time of declaration of results or anything like that. But this is simply because there is a connection to things, because it is more of a counter move. It is more of a ping pong or a chess game that is happening. You realize that for every action that the opposition takes, particularly Kyagulanyi, there is a counter move by the government. Okay. Now, essentially, Bobby Wine's entire campaign trail has been an online event. It has been broadcasted live to the whole world out there for everyone to know. So you realize that he has brought about something. He has showed the strength of a camera, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah.
So much that it has showed people what is actually happening in the country. He has showed the government for what it actually is. Yeah. Just by a mere camera. They have used excessive force. They're using guns here and there, tear gas, canisters, sprays, and everything. And he is just using a camera. So that, in essence, shows that it is a threat to the what? To the government. But at the same time, such a statement being issued by the Electoral Commission also speaks volumes about the independence of the Electoral Commission.
I saw that and I was like, how is that possible? Like, there's something behind it that they don't want us to know. And I'm sure. So now, how can you, like a local person, how can you get back hope that this is going to be a free and fair election? And how can we have hope that when we go to vote, we can actually, our vote will mean something?
Well, with all truth and honesty, I'd be lying to you if I say this is going to be a free and fair election. However, the way I can put it is, in every system, there is a loophole. Okay? It is a system that has been organized, or it is a process that has been organized on a national level by the Electoral Commission. And realize that the opposition, particularly Bobby Wine, has been pushing for mass voting. He has been encouraging the youth to vote out there for a reason, simply because majority of the people, of the national citizens in Uganda, had actually lost hope, and the majority being the youth, they had actually lost hope in the entire electoral process, simply because they had believed it had lost its credit worthy. Okay, it was no longer credible, whatever information was coming out of there. But he's trying to show them that there is hope, and there's a way we can actually safeguard this vote. But the only way we can make sure we safeguard this vote is by making sure we vote in large numbers, in a peaceful manner. Because over time he has been advocating for peace, and he has made sure to mention that his campaign and the entire campaign trail is non-violent. Okay, despite how much he has made violence along the way, despite how much he has lost people or had people next to him or close to him injured, he has kept through and through, urging people to keep peaceful. Okay, which speaks volumes about a leader to me. It speaks volumes about a leader to me, especially a leader who is advocating for democracy. If he had spoken otherwise, then it would still trying to show me a different picture about him. But the point is, he has urged people to vote simply because he has put a system in place to safeguard that vote. Okay, and hoping that if the numbers come out big, and accurate, we can actually do something about it. There's already an app in place that agents are supposed to use, and he launched it the other day when he was making a speech. But the ironical thing, the irony, yeah, exactly that one right there, the U vote. But the irony of things is, just when it was supposed to be on Play Store, the government just blocked App Store and Play Store in the whole country, where you actually have to use a VPN to access some of these apps. So the point is, if the government can go to such extremes just to block one app, but not just to block even just one app, to make sure you don't even download a VPN to bypass whatever plans they have in place, it seems a little extreme, especially if the intention is a free and fair election, and everyone has put in their work, and their work actually speaks for them. Okay, you don't have to go to such extremes. So such systems in place, and observance, and he has actually also urged people, has told them, we are doing a campaign, everything we are doing is within the law. So you can actually stick back after casting your vote. It is your responsibility to keep your vote. Okay? But frankly, to so to speak, we have come to realize Ugandans have become accustomed to listening to Bobby Wine, simply because they now know whatever he urges them to do, there is a plan towards his objective, okay, which is achieving change by democratic means in Uganda. Trying to urge Ugandans to fight for their rights, but in a peaceful manner, because everyone has a right to express themselves. It is a constitution given right, okay? And it is well within your means, it is well within your right to speak out where you see injustice. It is well within your right to stand for what you believe in, stand firm for what you believe in. And it is also your duty, you have a duty to your country to go and cast your vote so that your voice can be heard and determine the next leadership of the country. So when you cast your vote, it is also a responsibility to keep it. Now, that whole motive is, it is kind of against the regime. That's not what the regime wants. Actually, besides the Electoral Commission banning cameras and phones within polling stations, they also came out and they were like, once you're done casting your vote, you're not supposed to stay back. Come, cast your vote, go back home. You leave everything else to us. Then we'll come out and we tell you what the results are. But you see, this is a challenge simply because people have kind of lost credibility in the Electoral Commission. They feel like it doesn't speak for itself, but it's actually communicating for someone else. Yeah? So to speak. So all these things have been shady in a way. They've been shady, and they raise suspicion. And this same suspicion causes worry in Ugandans. It causes a little bit of insecurity.
We are almost at the end of this show. But I wanted to ask you, what are your last words, or what are some of the words you can tell to all the listeners or to all the Ugandans as they head towards a big change? And what kind of hope will you give back to the people? Or anything else that I've not asked you about that you want to share with our listeners?
Well, to start with, the first thing I would urge Ugandans, my fellow Ugandans, to do is make sure you wake up and you go and vote. Go and vote because you owe a duty to your country to go and vote, and you have every right to determine the leadership of your country. It is your right. It is your right to make sure that you put your voice out there, because these are very things that are going to affect you. If you feel like the leaders you have in power don't exactly represent your will, or they don't exactly represent what is affecting you, then you have a right to change it. And this is the opportunity right here to do it, not just at the president level, all the way down to the level. But at the same time, I would still urge my fellow Ugandans to stick to the truth. I would urge them to make sure they make a logical decision, think through. The majority of us have been in a generation where we have seen one simple president, and we have seen what he had to offer growing up all through. Okay? It is not enough to be intimidated into not voting, but also voting against your will. It is a secret ballot. Everyone is allowed to vote for their own candidate, and it is of paramount importance simply because it changes the fate of the country. Okay? Maybe the other thing I wanted to get into that I slightly just wanted to hit was a recent event of the brutality of Bobby Wine at when he was having a press conference with ICC. You're well aware that he actually reported a case at ICC against General Museveni.
Yeah, so I watched the video too when he was on an interview, and then they pulled him out
precisely,
of the car.
because that interview right there was an ICC interview. They opened up a case against General Museveni, or the President of the Republic of Uganda, crimes against humanity or things like that. But fortunately or unfortunately for him, midway of the interview, when he was actually even submitting his testimony, he was pepper sprayed, tear gassed, and actually dragged out of his car. But the implications are quite even grave than you might actually think, because once such evidence is put on record and the ICC can actually issue sanctions and issue a warrant for the president, okay, which is okay. This is something that has been done over time. All I'm trying to say is that history has kind of repeats itself. Something that happened in northern Sudan, there's something in Libya, and everything. They confine you as a president. If you're issued with an arrest warrant, you're not allowed to fly out of your country. Okay, so you cannot even go to your neighbors, even if it is Sudan or any other country, simply because the moment you fly out of the country, you are supposed to just be flown to the ICC to answer to your charges. Okay, so it cannot be done to a sitting president. That means that leaves you confined to your country. But these are things that are worth looking into, especially considering how the entire campaign trail has happened, violating rights of journalists. You realize that journalists have been actually in harm's way. They've been brutalized. They've been shot at. Recently, we had a canister fired at. Was it a rubber bullet fired at one of Bobby Wine's journalists? The one was following him all over. Ashraf Kasiri. That actually shattered his forehead and skull. He is in recovery. We have already lost people. We had violent demonstrations the other time last year around November. Was it 18th? That saw 54 lives lost. Okay, 54, and that was just the formal reported number, but we actually lost more lives than that. We've had the Bobby Wine's bodyguard also dead over the same allegations. So all these things that have been piling up just in the recent events alone, the brutality of police, the army intertwining with the army intertwining with the roles of the police. Okay, the army has brought out sort of an excessive force that does not exactly represent what exactly they're supposed to do, because they are supposed to serve the country and protect its citizens. Okay, so all these recent events that have been on Bobby Wine's campaign trail have in a way amounted to the crimes. Okay, and it only warrants or calls for one thing, which is investigation, simply because lives are at stake here. And we're also looking at an avenue where we need tool to make sure such a thing does not happen in the near future. We are at an objective of preserving more life as opposed to having more lives lost. Okay, and if such an encumbrance also favors or such an encumbrance stops more violence erupting in the country, I think it is a step in the right direction, and it is something that we are supposed to do. But the most important bit is we are supposed to secure our country as our citizens in a peaceful manner and make sure our will is heard through voting come next week, 14th, Thursday.
Right. Every word we're going to say on this and all the time is go vote.
Go vote.
Because you explained it very well. And I told people in my latest episode that even in America, people were just calling on to each other to vote, to go vote. In these recent elections we just had in November, the word was like go vote, where most of the black people in America had given up voting because they thought there's no reason for them to vote because they go through the same thing all the time. But here is a chance that we got to have somebody who actually listens to the black people in America. And the black people started mobilizing each other to go vote. And when they went to vote, they voted in large numbers that even President Trump could not even tamper with any of the votes. He kept arguing that they stole the votes, but it's just because people turned out to vote. And I'm hoping, like, many people in Uganda might have given up hope of, like, they're going to steal the votes. But if we go and vote in large numbers, something can happen that they won't even have enough votes to steal. You remember when Bobby Wine just won the election in Chadondo? He had more votes that even if you multiplied all his competitors by 3, you couldn't get the amount of votes he got. So that's something
well, he's a lucky guy, but on top of that, he's also a hardworking guy. But rightly so.
And he's smart.
Precisely, he's a very smart guy. But rightly so, like you put it, like the way blacks had lost faith in those elections, it's the same way guys have lost faith in the elections back here because they feel like the results have already been doctored. Okay, but this time around, what's different is that is exactly what Bobby Wine has been against, and that is exactly what he has been preaching to the people. He has been telling them that, look here, your voice is still valuable. Your voice can still be heard. You have a right to vote, and he has actually inspired the spirit of voting among the people, particularly the youth that had initially given up on the whole process. They are not even interested in voting at all. And we're looking at a scenario where he's not even urging the youth alone to go and vote. It's like, you carry also the old ones, bring them to vote. Border guys, I am tasking you, because those are the people that actually believe in him down here. There are people that listen to him and they relate to him because, like you might know, he is from the ghetto. He has been there. There is practically nothing he doesn't know happening down there. And these are the people that he relates with. That's why he tasks them. So he's asking everyone. He's actually being a messenger. He's like, I am sending you, tasking you to go and tell someone else, to go and vote. Now, he is not telling people to go and vote him. Let me make that clear. He is not asking people to go and vote him. He is asking people to go and vote. As simple as that. He's letting everyone know you have a right to vote for whoever you need. It is your constitution given right, and it is well within your right to go and vote whoever you want to vote. But in a peaceful manner, which is the right thing to do if you actually think about it. It speaks volumes about the kind of leader that you're going to be. And if you are a leader anyway, that means you stand to represent the bigger number or the bigger picture involving anyone, despite of the differences and everything.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Council Gilbert Asimwe, for walking us through these the legal matters of the situations in Uganda. And I'm sure all our listeners and everybody, before you go vote, you need to listen to this episode and you can learn something he'll give you a light into what actually is happening in our country. And I want to thank you
Yeah.
for the time you've given us, sir, and helping us enlighten in all these legal matters that some of the
Well, thank you
people
too,
don't
Bonnie. I'm
know.
glad to be here, and I'm glad I could help throw a little bit of light where I can. Yeah, it's actually cool because everyone needs to know what is happening in your country, and you also need to take part in what is actually happening in that country. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for reaching out to everyone. And yeah, keep doing you.
Thank you, sir. And everyone who wants to get in touch with Council Asima Gilbert, whether you're in Uganda or whether you're in the States and you want to know something, or if you need help, we're going to be dropping his social media usernames and where you can contact him, and he will get to whatever you want and see how he can help you. So thank you very much
Thank you.
and be blessed. Hey there, I am Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching my video, and don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend. Tune in every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for a new episode about my podcast. And for more information about this podcast, follow me on my Instagram page, talk_show_256.